It is said that the only thing worse than going to war without allies is going to war with allies. Hey everyone, Templar74 here with another video, and today's video is going to be my review on the latest episode of Sword Art Alternative Gun Gale Online, Episode 10, The Devil's Comeback. And I gotta say, this episode was really great, really intense. It had a little bit of everything. We had some drama, we had some suspense, we had a bit of romance in here too, and of course we saw some alliances that I think were completely unexpected, at least to me anyway, and I'm sure to a lot of other people. And we also got references to the original Sword Art generation, but again, we'll talk about all that in just a couple minutes. So without further ado, let's talk about the actual episode. So the episode begins where we left off last week with Lin and Fuka. They're still in the dome. They're being targeted by this sniper that's up in the tree. He's attempting to kill Lin, and that's when someone unexpected comes to their rescue. Eva shows up. She kills the guy that's targeting Lin and Fuka, and seeing Eva there, the teams are like, we're done. We're going after PM4. We're out of this dome. Let's withdraw. So all the teams are now out of the dome. It's just Lin and Fuka there with Eva. And now knowing this, Eva actually turns her attention to Lin and says, now that they're gone, let's have a real one-on-one battle. And Lin says, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And this just upsets and confuses Eva, because she's like, wait, we promised that we would have a real one-on-one next time in Gun Gale Online. What's the problem? And Lin is very quiet. She doesn't want to say exactly what her mission is right now, but Fuka is not that shy. She actually steps up and says, hey, look, we're trying to stop somebody from dying in the real world. If this Pito dies in the game, she's going to die in real life. And Lin is very irritated at Fuka for letting that slip. But hearing this, Eva is just dumbstruck. She wants to know what's going on. And so she turns to Lin and says, please tell me what is going on. And then we transition through the opening, and we actually go back a little bit. We go back to PM4, and they're with this team we met in episode 8 with the one female sniper or spotter, Shirley. And they're actually trying to form an alliance with PM4 after that big old massacre there where they slaughtered 7 teams at once. And these guys are basically saying, hey, let's team up. Let's take everybody out. We won't attack you. We'll get out of your way. We'll just have an agreement here. And Pito's like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And these guys are like, okay, fine. And their failure to do this, they do form a gentleman's agreement with Pito, and they say we'll save it, ceasefire until the next scan. And there are terms that Pito on face value agrees with, but she never shook on them. And as soon as this team turns their backs, Pito kills them all. And the guy says, wait, we had a gentleman's agreement. And as Pito is killing him, she says, in case you haven't noticed, I'm not a gentleman. So she completely wipes out this team with the exception of Shirley, the one girl left, and she's actually running away. And one of the guys from PM4 actually asks if he should finish her off. And Pito said, no, it's not worth going after somebody that's not going to shoot, a mistake that Pito will soon regret here in a little bit, but again, we'll talk about that in just a minute. So they let Shirley go, and then we go back to the Amazons, who at this point have formed an alliance with Lin and Fuka, and we learned throughout the episode that they talked with Eva about all this, and Eva has agreed to help Lin and Fuka take out PM4, but they agreed to leave Pito all to Lin. And basically the premise behind this is Eva says, I cannot allow somebody to die playing a VR MMORPG. This is not Sword Art Online. And so Eva is now completely on board. Team Shink is fighting with LF, and that is their agreement. And they actually call it Operation Sweets because Lin is so thrilled that Eva and the girls are going to help her. She basically says, if you do this, I will treat you to all the sweets you can eat. And so, yeah, that's what they name the operation. And what their operation is actually a pincer strategy, and it's very effective. The pincer strategy actually develops from the days of the Roman Empire when the legendary general Hannibal used a pincer strategy to almost destroy the Roman Empire. And this strategy is so effective, every single military uses it and has learned these techniques, and it's been used in every conflict ever since. So the pincer strategy is very effective. Essentially what it is you have one team attacking from the front, head-on attack, and then you have another team or an ally behind them. They're cutting behind the enemy you're targeting, and then they destroy them from the rear, and thus a pincer strategy. And this is what they're doing here. Shink is going to go after PM4 from the front, and Lin and Fuka are going to move in from the back, and it's going to be a pincer style strategy. And as they're going after PM4, Shink reveals that they have a secret weapon to go against M's shield, because that is the main thing Eva wants to break. She wants to test this. And what it is thanks to the help of Sinan, of course, remember from the original Sword Art Online series and Gun Gale, Sinan has actually helped secure an anti-tank rifle for Shink. And they're going to use this anti-tank rifle to destroy PM4. And it actually works, because they're sitting there, they actually had one of their team take a purposeful hit so that they can actually maneuver this heavy anti-tank gun and get it locked on to M's shield and destroy it. So they purposely had to take a loss, but it's all for the team, it's all for the cause, and they actually use this anti-tank rifle to take out M's shield, because every time they fire off a round at it, bam, it cuts off a part of the shield. And we lose, M loses 2 parts of his shield. One just disintegrates, and the other one actually breaks off and actually hits one of the masked guys in the face, instantly killing him. So now they've got this anti-tank gun, and they actually put PM4 on the retreat, because M will not let Pito Hui battle. He was insistent that since he was the sniper, he was going to take on Shink and destroy them. And now that Shink is actually pushing him back towards this log cabin, Eva radios over to Lin. She says, they're on the run, M's shield is destroyed, Pito Hui is all yours. They're heading for the cabin. And Lin is overjoyed by this. She's heading on, and we actually, before Lin gets there, somebody shoots Pito Hui, and it's actually Shirley from earlier on, because as she ran away, she vowed that Pito Hui was a vermin and you kill vermin. So she took a sniper shot and shot Pito Hui and almost killed her. But Lin, not wanting any part of this and angry at Shirley for what she had done, actually diverts her attack and goes after Shirley and kills her. So Shirley is now dead, and PM4 is retreating into this cabin here because Lin wanted Shirley dead first. And it looked from all appearances there that Pito was dead. I mean, Pito was there. She was shot in the eye. She's like, this is how I'm going to die. This is how I'm going to die. And M is holding her, trying to inject a med pack into her, saying, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. Don't leave me. And we actually see M starting to cry. And that's when Pito actually whispers to him, why are you crying, Goshi? And he's just like, I'm not going to lose you. And they're going into the cabin. They're basically trying to get Pito Hui out of there because she's barely surviving. And they actually get her into the cabin. They're holed up. M and the rest of PM4 at this point, there's just 3 of them left now, are going to try to keep the cabin. They're going to hold the cabin. That is their stronghold. And we actually learned during this interaction that Pito Hui is actually still using nerve gear, not the Amusphere. So since Pito Hui is playing this with the nerve gear, the effect of Sword Art Online is there. You know, because if you guys remember the nerve gear, if you lose the game, the nerve gear will fry your brain and you're dead. So Pito Hui is playing this with nerve gear. So this is an all-in death game, all serious. Goshi was not kidding when he said if she dies in the game, she's dead in real life. And it wasn't so much that she was going to commit suicide. It turns out it was the fact that she had nerve gear. So now PM4 is held up in this cabin, and Shink is still moving on. They're like, we're going to drive PM4 out of this cabin, but Pito Hui is all to Lin. And we actually see these guys converge on this cabin, but before they get there, the other team, because we hear rumbling coming from the background, and it's this line of Humvees. It's the guys that actually got the hovercraft in the first Squad Jam tournament, and they're actually going into this cabin. They're taking advantage of the fact that Pito Hui was wounded, and they're going to go in and destroy PM4 before Lin and Shink can stop them. So basically at this point, these guys storm the cabin, and PM4 is basically on a suicide mission at this point. They're just going to try to hold the staircase and keep them from getting up to where M and Pito are. And one of the masked guys actually questions M before he goes down and ultimately dies. He said, "What is Pito to you?" I'm like, I know, I'm just here to follow orders in my contract and not to ask questions, but he wants to know what Pito is to M. And M says, "I want to protect her." And so the guy radios to the others and he says, "This is going to be interesting, boys. We're going to have to hold the staircase as long as possible." And so, yeah, they do. We actually have a guy that is completely loaded down with grenades. He ends up getting shot and falls down the stairs and gets blown up. And one of the guys actually does manage to pick off a few of the members of this team, but ultimately is shot himself. So these guys are now at this door where Pito is lied down on the bed, completely passed out. M is with her, saying, "Please don't pass out. We don't have time for this." And the team on the other end of the door actually starts opening fire into the room. And as they're doing this, we hear an explosion, and it sounds like a plasma grenade. And all the while, we had a brief romantic interaction with M and Pito there while she's unconscious behind the door, as it turns out. And what they heard was a plasma grenade going off, but they assume it's a team outside, so they start blasting into the room, spraying it with gunfire. Well, suddenly, from the other side of the door, fire is returned back, and it kills a couple of the guys. So the guy takes his rifle and puts it in the hole in the door, and just as he's about ready to fire, we actually have a photon sword break through the logs and right into the guy's face, killing him. And one of the guys actually makes the comment, he said, "That is a sword in the world of guns. In the original Battle of Bullets, there was one player, a third player. I don't know his name, but he or she at this point, is what the guy's saying, used a photon sword. A sword in the world of guns that can slice bullets." And that sword actually drives right into the guy's eye and kills him. And we hear Pito's maniacal music from behind the door. So it's assumed that whatever happened, Pito is still alive and she's going after this guy with the photon sword. So yeah, it was a really intense standoff there. And this episode, like I said, that was the entire episode, and I'm just at a loss for it. It was great. It had suspense, it had drama, it had strong tactics, it had romantic moments, and it even referenced the original Gale Online with Sinan and Kirito. And it basically proves in this episode that Kirito and Sinan were in the original Battle of Bullets tournament that preceded this alternative Gale Online, and they're still around and they're still prevalent because, I mean, heck, Sinan led Shink to this anti-tank rifle, so it's assumed that both of them are still on Gale Online or still connected to it in a certain extent, and I thought that was real interesting. But yeah, that was the episode. Like I said, overall, this episode was really great. It had a lot of twists and turns in it that I don't think anybody saw coming. Overall, I ranked this episode a 9 out of 10. A really great episode. A really one that's worth watching, in my opinion. And yeah, what else can I say about the episode? It was really good. So anyway, like always, everybody, in the comments section down below, let me know what you guys thought of this week's episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What were your thoughts on the team up between LF and Shank to take on PM4? What are your thoughts on Shirley almost killing Pito? What are your thoughts on Sinan and Kirito references? What are your thoughts on what happened behind that closed door? Just let me know what your guys' thoughts are about all this in the comments section down below, because as always, I enjoy hearing from you. All right, everyone, as always, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye, everybody.